Boxing King Media in association with Boxro. Well-respected trainer Joe Gallagher. Joe, your guy Mark Efron, big fight Saturday night for him. I asked him how he wins his fight, but he didn't really say much, so you tell me.
No, we're not. Listen, he's got to go in there, do what we've been working on in training. We're up against a very good champion, Lennox Clark, very hugely motivated, been out the ring for a while, coming off a career best win over Willie Hutchinson, and as you heard him say there today, he's treating this like a challenger. Mark Hearn as well, this is his third opportunity for a fight at a British title, and that's what makes this fight. You could feel the tension between the pair of them, hugely respect from both camps. Harold Johnson's a good trainer, his fighters always come with a game plan and they're always very fit. Coming off a good win with Tyler Denny the other week, so the tails are up, and like I say, all we have to do is just sit back Saturday night and watch these two boys go to work, and both have the potential to end the fight with punch power, but I think it's got to be a good fight.
Both guys have kind of got to the top of British level and suffered defeats, obviously Lerone Richards and Denzel Bentley in Mark's case. Which one of them do you think's probably learned more from them experiences and probably benefited?
I don't know. I think I only speak on Mark's behalf. Obviously, he's been in with Ian Williams, with Denzel Bentley, and I have to go with how he's been in the gym for this camp. It's been a tough camp. We had to work on him physically, emotionally, mentally. The whole thing with Mark, and everything that I've asked for, he's given me and more. You look at Mark Efron's record, I think he's got like a 70% KO ratio. But he hasn't done many championship rounds, so we've worked on that to be strong down the straight as well, because we know that's what Lennox will bring. He's a strong fighter. We know that of his game plan. I know Lennox, with his sparring, he's been sparring Felix Cash and other fighters. He's been working on his defence and tightening up a little bit. So yeah, it's a really good fight between two good kids, and like I say, Lennox hasn't really had chance to push on his win since Willie Hutchinson, so this is a chance for him to go again. I can understand where he's doing this. He feels Mark's Willie Hutchinson again, and for Mark Hearn, like you say, he's been there a couple of times and didn't do it, but this time he's got to get over the line.
On paper, Mark appears to have the more power, but like I said to Mark, people that were sparred Lennox and fought with him say he's really, really strong, so don't underestimate his 8 knockouts.
Yeah, no, I know Lennox Clark well. We've had him up in the gym loads of times in the past, sparring with Callum Smith and everything else, so I know Lennox very well. I know his mindset. I know Lennox, and full credit to him. You've got to look at where he's come from on white collar to become British Commonwealth champion. That just deserves credit and praise. People don't really look upon British titles no more like they used to in the old days, but it's still a huge achievement, and he should be proud of what he's achieved in the sport.
Good stuff. So now get your opinions on the whole Tasha Jonas, Hannah Rankin situation. Is there any update? Do you think you guys are going to get that fight? Because online rumours are saying that Terry Harper might get that fight.
Yeah, that's down to Hannah Rankin and her team. From what I hear, a good offer was put to Hannah and her team way back in May for a fight to happen in September in Liverpool, and that's why Tasha didn't fight. Now there's another offer coming, and it's up to Hannah who to choose. Hannah's the fighter, and as you see with Anthony Joshua, he tells his manager what to do and the promoter what to do, and whatever fight's best. And Hannah Rankin, it's down to her, whoever she chooses best. So hopefully she chooses Natasha, and it's a chance for them to be on an unbelievable women's night of boxing down in London, September the 10th. You've got Marshall, Shields, you've got Maya, Birnberg. It's a great bill, and I'm sure Hannah will want to be part of that. So hopefully it happens, and if it doesn't, wish her good luck and with a fight with Terry Harper, and we just move on.
Because I did interview Steffi, and they did kind of say if it does end up being Terry Harper and if Terry wins, they're open to a Tasha Jonas unification fight.
Well, that's all the ifs, buts and maybes, so we'll have to see on that.
Good stuff. And I just want to get your opinion on this old Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr. Your thoughts? Do you think it's actually happening, or is it just rumours?
No, from what I hear it's happening, but I just think it's, like I said earlier, I think that there's a few issues. I think it's silly to see people get so excited over two great fighters' sons when the sad side of it is, really, is that where we're going? We're clutching at straws to make that type of fight for British boxing. We slag YouTube and people off for doing them YouTube fighters, and you've got a welterweight here. If I went to the British Boxing Board of Control with a welterweight who hasn't fought for an English, Commonwealth, British, European, and I said I want to put him in with a former super middleweight world champion, you'd get knocked back on that. You get knocked back on that, but just because there's a name. So you're asking Eubank Jr. to come down in weight to a weight that he's never done before. So the British Boxing Board of Control, I think last time Eubank Jr. weighed that weight was 2014, 15, 7 years ago, and he weighed 159 or 158. He's never been 156. So 7 years later, you've got to stand back and watch a kid. There's a reason why he moved up from middleweight to super middleweight, and he's come back down to middleweight, but he's never gone to light middleweight. But you've got to do that catchweight now, so I'm a little bit concerned on that aspect of it from the Board of Control. Like I said to you, if I went with two kids and the names weren't Benn or Eubank, would the board approve it? But for Conor Benn, it's a win-win. He's stepping up, do you know what I mean? He's improved immensely. Tony Sims has done a great job. But I don't know if being hardcore boxing to an extent. I think, listen, if my kid was presented the opportunity of Conor Benn for fighting huge money, then listen, kids have got to earn a living. But at the same time, it's like, Eubank Jr., why don't you want to get back in the mix at world level? You should be fighting a Caleb Plant. He lost to Canelo. Go and have that fight. Fight Billy Joe Saunders if he's coming back. Get there. Go and be a world champion again. Not be an IBO world champion, but go and do it again. Conor Benn, why don't you want to be English champion, British champion, European champion? Do you know what I mean? The good fights, it's what boxing's built on. And we have Clark Hearn at the weekend. It's a good British fight, and it's just a shame. And I said before in another interview, so what, in 2 or 3 years' time, we've got to have Campbell Hatton versus William Crawler. What, because like of the names, it's just, come on, where are we going a little bit with it? So I understand there'll be people wanting to tune in, and I understand that there's money to be made, but for Eubank Jr., when he was in the World Boxing Super Series, for me anyway, I was a huge fan of him. He put himself in there. He was devastating. He had a good win over Yildirim. He had a great fight with George Groves Jr., and that's it. He was finding it. You could see the development, and where are we now? Do we not want to test ourselves no more or whatever? And for Conor Benn, it's like, wow, it's win-win for you and it's great, but you beat Eubank Jr. I understand on the world scene at welterweight, Boot Ennis and all them guys, you're not ready. So that's why we have British and European fights to get you ready for that. If Eubank makes weight, great. But already I've been hearing circulation, oh yeah, Eubank will agree to it, won't make weight, take the fine and have the fight and money. What if Conor Benn gets really seriously hurt? Who allowed a welterweight? Lots of stick was given for Kell Brook stepping up for Triple G, but Kell Brook was a world champion moving up to middleweight. We've got another welterweight here going up to fight a middleweight, super middleweight. So that's the backside of it. I'm more sure we get called this and that, but that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion, and I just thought to myself, well, matchmakers at the moment are having a hard time matchmaking fights, and the board are knocking these fights and everything else, but would the board sanction a welterweight versus a super middleweight in any other part of this country in any show?
Do you think the fact that neither fighter could probably make that kind of money, because the numbers I've seen are 7-5 million, they probably couldn't make that kind of money fighting anyone right now worldwide other than each other? No,
exactly. So I understand that. So we're going down the Triller route. So you see Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson and all them type of things. But we've been giving YouTube fighters stick for a very long time, and Jake Paul and that, because their events and the fighting this and the fighting that. And Floyd fought a YouTuber whenever it was. So it's it. But the hardcores, we've been brought up on the boxers fighting the best and becoming the best in your division. Then when you become world champion, you move up a division to challenge the next world champion in that division. So is this going to start setting a trend there now, where fighters get into boxing, not to become world champion, British, European, but they're just going into it and go, well, do you know what? Alex Arthur's got a couple of young sons coming through in 5 years. Have we got to say, well, Alex Arthur's son, then you go and fight Croller's brother, or I keep saying Croller only because he's right to me, or Paul Smith's little son, do you know what I mean? So where are we going with it? We're going away from what boxing is. You turn professional, you want to be the best in your weight division, you want to be the world champion, you want to be multiple world titles. Conor Benn can go back and rebuild it, and Conor Benn could win. Eubank loses, I'm sure there'll be a rematch. So it's just opened a whole kind of worms for me really on a lot of levels. But on the other side, as people say, if I was Tony Sims and Conor Benn, it's win-win, off we go, plenty of money, same with Roy and Chris Eubank Jr. But it is what it is.
Would you pay the pay-per-view for it to watch it?
I won't be paying pay-per-view to watch it. No, most will be on YouTube the next day, won't it?
And last question, Joe. I read something on Twitter. Again, I get a lot of my questions from people on Twitter. People are suggesting that obviously since you and Eddie had this fallout, it's been about a year plus now, that you guys haven't really worked with each other. To my knowledge, I don't know whether you have or not, but is it stopping you?
No, that's wrong. That's all the rubbish. Obviously, we had Katie Taylor, we had Marcus Morrison. Christian's been on the phone a few times offering fights for a few of my fighters. Some of the fights haven't fitted, so that's basically it, really. No, I don't know where that's from at all. Like you say, there's Probellum, Frank Warren, like you say, Eddie Hearn. So yeah, there's no problem. Eddie Hearn, like always, they'll be in touch when there's a fight to be made and it makes sense and it makes money. So yeah, no, that's it.
Joe, thank you so much for your time and thanks for answering that. Cheers.
Yeah, no problem. Cheers, thank you.